Invisible zips are by far and away the easiest and fastest zips to install, and they're always sewn into the garment pieces before the seam is finished. The great thing about invisible zips is that we don't need to allow any extra seam allowance. They fit into a standard 1 centimetre, which is 3/8 of an inch seam. So when we're pattern making, we don't need to make an extra allowance for it. There are 3 sewing machine feet we need to install our invisible zipper. The first is the plain presser foot. The plain presser foot is the presser foot that comes standard with our sewing machine, and it's the foot that has a foot width allowance, which is 5 to 6 mils on either side of the needle. The next is our invisible zipper foot, which has a left and right channel underneath. You can purchase a similar type of foot for a domestic sewing machine. And lastly, we require a right-hand zipper foot, and I know this is a right-hand zipper foot because there is a notch cut out of the right-hand side of it. There are 2 types of invisible zips you can install, a set length zip and a variable length zip. There is no difference in installation between the two. However, if you buy a variable length zip and it's too long, you may need to shorten it. Just see my other tutorial for details on this. The zip length marked on the zipper itself refers to the distance between the top and the bottom stoppers. Here I have a 20 centimetre zip. It's very important that I notch my fabric before we begin. Now, where do I notch it? If this is a 20 centimetre zip, we need to make sure there's a notch at 21 centimetres. That's because there's a 1 centimetre seam allowance allowed for at the top to fit our zip in. I'm going to go away and overlock my pieces now, remembering to only trim the threads and make sure my notches are still visible under the overlocking. Just remember there is a right and a wrong side to overlocking. Remember to always overlock your pieces with right side up. Now lay your pieces on the table, right side up. Now check your notches are still visible through the overlocking. One thing you need to be very aware of is never snipping through the overlocking thread just in case you've forgotten to notch beforehand. What this does is break our overlocking thread and cause it to unravel. We must always notch before we overlock. Pick up your zip, open it up and turn it over. I've put a pin here just to show you where the notch is. As you can see, there's quite a bit of tape going to be below where our notch is. It's up to you whether you want to shorten this zip or not. Ensuring your machine is turned off, lift the presser foot lever. Now we're going to attach the invisible zip foot to our machine. I'm going to change the angle we're viewing this from now and the zip colour so you can see this in a little more detail. Take the screwdriver that came with your sewing machine, insert it into the presser foot screw and turn anti-clockwise until the presser foot drops out of your machine. Make sure you put this presser foot somewhere safe, for example in the drawer of the sewing machine. Take your invisible zip foot and place it into the shank holder. Sometimes this can be a little tricky. If yours won't go in all the way, simply take it out again, use your knee lift to lift it a little bit further and try again. Now tighten the screw by screwing clockwise. Once your invisible zip foot is installed, use the presser foot lever and drop it back into place. Ensure your machine is turned back on. When you present your work to the invisible zip foot, you'll see that there are 2 channels, a right and a left channel. The job of these channels is to roll open the invisible zip edge, stitch in there, and as it passes through the back of the foot, roll it back again. Sometimes it's a little hard to get started and you can just use your finger to pull that channel open. We are going to sew using the right channel, matching the edge of the zipper tape to the edge of the overlocking. Remember to back tack to begin. If you find this top stopper gets caught, just use your finger to slightly roll open that edge and help it through the channel. Continue sewing down the edge of the zipper teeth until you get to the notch. When you get to the notch, remember to back tack, then cut off your threads. What does make our job a little easier when sewing in our invisible zip is that the manufacturers allow a 1 centimetre seam allowance on either side of the zipper teeth. What this means is we just simply match the edge of the zipper tape to our overlocking. So your next question is, where do I start sewing from? Well, you simply match the top of the zipper tape to the raw edge of your fabric. Manufacturers allow about a 1.5 centimetre allowance. Now that's really good. We pattern 1 centimetre, but you don't really want that zip jammed to the top of your sewing. Now we're going to sew in the other side of the zip. Pick up your work and turn it over so you have right sides together again. Match the edge of the tape to the edge of your overlocking and present your work to the zipper foot. This time we're going to sew using the left channel. Remember to back tack at the beginning and use your finger to open that zipper tape if the top stopper just gets caught a little. Continue to sew matching the edge of the tape to the edge of the overlocking all the way down until you find your notch. At the notch, back tack and remembering to clip off your threads. Take your work away from the foot and zip the zip closed. Closing the zip is optional, but I often find it's a lot easier to continue. Arrange your work so that the right sides are together and pop it out of the way for now. We're going to change the foot to the plain presser foot. Now we've installed our plain presser foot, we need to close the seam. We do this by sewing from the bottom of our work towards the zipper we've just installed. Match the bottom of your work and sew in a 1 centimetre seam towards the stitching line you've just made. This can be a little tricky sometimes. You may need to just pull the bottom of the zip out of the way. Only sew as far as you can comfortably go. There will be a gap. Now it's time to install the right-hand zipper foot. Because this zipper foot only has one side to it, it means we can get really close to our work. What we need to do now is either sew directly on or as close as possible to the stitching to fill that gap in. Remember to back tack at the beginning and end of your work.